Good morning, everyone. Welcome to LIGHTBOB TV, episode 8, Wednesday on manufacturing. And what I'm doing is that I just want to take back the episode I was supposed to do last week on Wednesday and Thursday. So this week we're going to talk about how the circadian fixtures are mass produced for project, and because I didn't want to miss any of them, for you to miss any of them, and that this went the episode 9 will be shown next week, even after we are presenting. So as we talk about wellness and we talk about source, we talk about fixtures. Now today we're gonna hit the manufacturing plant and see also how different manufacturers are catching up the wave and some that are not, and how are you going to deal with it. And as I was telling you, I've been testing a lot of products, I've been testing a lot of technology, and still testing a lot of it, and we'll be testing for a couple, for a little bit more time. But and it's always an ongoing process. So you have manufacturer that send you stuff, you're trying it, and it works. Some doesn't work, and then you got to try to match some product. Then you got to try to integrate all this in some kind of a system. And the next step is going to be to start programming it so that you achieve the result of circadian lighting, and also that you start feeling the biological effect about it. So as we talk about wellness and circadian lighting, today is actually how they're built, right? How all of this is put together, and how do we, as user and designers, how easy it is, or for us, but how much harder it is for manufacturer to consistently produce product that are repeatable. And this is what I'm experiencing right now. First of all, there is a certain amount of products that are available, certain by family, by certain manufacturers. And as the different manufacturer production or material or software shift globally, we are effect of it, as we as clients, but we as end user too, because I consider myself not only a specifier but an end user. And before I try anything, or I concentrate my intention on anything, I want to make sure that I can repeat this formula. I want to make sure that when I start publishing a white paper, and I start working and explaining and teaching people how to easily integrate this to their life, it's still available, and we can do it at a bigger scale, not just at a small scale. And as I was telling you, like when we talk about manufacturing and wellness lighting, uh, it became to a certain point, like at first it was just the lighting fixtures. Then we had some light bulbs. Then we had a spectrum of lighting control, right? Because most of the control was from warm to cool. That was our transition, our transition beginning. Then we had some smooth color shift, uh, which were not really steps, but they were just, we could start bringing other color. Eventually, the technology got better and better, and then we started to integrate the lighting control, so that we would have a better dimming curve, and our lighting would be smoother. We wouldn't have any flickering um, or instability. And all of this seems really easy now, but you have to understand on the manufacturer end how complicated it is. Because, first of all, if you manufacture static fixtures for your lifetime, now you got to move into a certain area where you need to have a bit more technology. Means that you have to have people. You have to start working also on your culture, because people have been working and doing this for a long time, and that's how they did it. And trying to come in and change that culture requires a lot of efforts. So, and then we need to get the same consistency, which is, again, you gotta work your supply chain. You gotta work uh, your assembly line. You gotta work your testing. So why do we want to have consistency? Is because when you have different different source, you want to have the same light output across all your room. When you're doing a building, you want to have the same across floors. And maybe you won't see the difference if you walk into an office building and you go from the 15 to the 16 by the elevator. But if you walk into a lobby and you have an open face and you see some that are pinkish, some that are yellowish, some that are goldish, some that are bluish, the consistency is not fun. Same thing when you have, an entire building. You go, you look, anywhere you look, you always have something different. So as a designer and also as a owner, it becomes a really complicated matter. And this is where working with multi-channel LED system, and I say multi-channel because when you have white, you have two wires, a positive and a negative. When you have, let's say, um, tunable white, you have warm white, you have cold white, and uh, then you have your common. Then when you start talking about tunable, now you have your green, your red, your blue, your warm white, your cool white, plus your common. So now you are at six wires, right? Or 5 channel. So all of those are adding on, and adding them on means that you need more component. You have more area where you can have potential trouble source. And again, you're expanding the range of control, but you're also expanding everything. You need more channel on your software. You need more channel on your wiring. You need more, etc., etc. And that's why when I started to look at some lighting technology, um, one of the project I did, we ran all 6 cable home run for the LED, all our LED control. That's a bit over design, and it becomes a real nightmare in the panel control, because you have some fixtures that you need 3 wires, some you need 5 wires, some you need 4 wires. So the 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 constant, the stability, it becomes very hard to control. Now the key concept that manufacturers don't have to forget about is that the end of the tunnel is we want to be able to provide wellness lighting. And wellness lighting is not about all the problems that the lighting system is going to bring. It's about all the bonification it's going to do for the body. So you want to make sure that all those problems that you're going to be facing or that you're facing are not on your client's line, because the first time they're gonna call you, you're gonna be in for a treat, right? You're gonna have a lot of question to answer, and some of them won't be subtle. Some of them will be, pretty rough, and they're not necessary. If you do your work properly, if you work with proper technology, if you work with proper suppliers, if you work with proper manufacturer, and you have the proper supply chain, you'll be in good hands. So today we have many wellness fixtures that are very simplified version. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, we were RGB, and that was it. We didn't even have tunable white. Then tunable white came, so the range got a little longer. And now today, um, manufacturers start to understand that more and more they gotta be more consistent on the batch and the binning that they're choosing, because their product, they don't want any inconsistency between their product between batches. So they don't want to have to deal with that. So they invest a little bit more and they get some proper binning. They try to stick with the manufacturer. And if they change, well, things can happen. The manufacturer can change their suppliers. They can have a disaster, a fire, whatever, right? Plus, one thing that we used to say about in the old days is that LED evolution was about, I would say, 10%. Today, maybe we are at 50% at the evolution of the LED chip. So there's still room to improve, right? A lot of room. We want them to be consuming less energy, generating less heat, producing more lights. So all these characteristics are still been worked on, and manufacturers have to deal with that, because they do a design for a fixture with a certain um, uh, uh, with a certain group of component, and and then you come in with uh, a more efficient product. So that means that the design that you did has to change, because now, but most of the time they won't change it. They will just try to adapt whatever technology of the day into the luminaire. Now, the newcomers come in and they don't have that problem. They're just going to take the more efficient product. They're going to design a more efficient casing, and they're going to have a more efficient fixtures, which going to look smaller, more sexier, different type of material, different this, different that. And all of that will be taken care of by the manufacturers. So these are some issue that manufacturers and you as a designer and as a user, you will face. Two products gonna come in front of you, have the same performance, one that have been optimized, the other one that just have been modified. And that's when, it's important to have samples. It's important to put them side by side. Because the last thing you want is you want a project that look uneven, and you want to have projector that are of different intensity. So you don't want any disconnection between your design intent and the delivery of the experience, because that's the bottom line. What you want, you don't care about the product. I mean, the product is the product, the source is the source, but what you want is the user to have the best experience and have the maximum, output and the maximum input of, of light into the body, so that the biological system is fed properly at different time of the circadian level. So as wellness is treated as a feature, um, there's no requirement as of today of what kind of system that you need, right? It's really based on personal taste, personal education, what you want, what you expect, and how it goes. But the field of uh, a biological improvement and also wellness lighting is evolving really, really fast, because the more and more the population is growing, the more and more they're demanding, product that are more performing, and also that will help them to grow older and older. So knowing that they can eat better, that they can have better furniture, they can have better finishes, now knowing that they can have better lighting, they will come, and the demand will be more and more. So what does it do for the manufacturer? Well, you know, we have now, manufacturer have now real constraint, right? Because people want the LED consistency. They want to have no color variation between batches. They don't understand about binning, but they understand that if you put two products together side by side and they're not the same color, there's a problem. So the eye is very good to compare, but not very good to evaluate. So it's very hard to say how much lumen are coming out of the fixtures, but if you put two fixtures side by side, you'll be able to evaluate and say, well, this one's not the same color as this one. Now, also, the other challenge that manufacturers have is the driver's performance. So, as we've been talking about with different technology, most of it is still based on the old technology of having driver. So you want to have the driver performance working very, very well and be as precise and as dynamic as possible. You don't want to have like shivering lights. You don't want to have a big fall. You start dimming, then poof, it goes down to zero. So you want to have a certain stability over time. And then also, of course, we want to have an assembly, the precision assembly, to be all your parts to be well aligned. You don't want to, I mean, the level of precision that the technology is today, and it blows my mind, because every time I go uh, to different places, I always look how the electronic is done. Recently, I changed my phone, and I looked the quality of assembly, and it was just out of this world. And when you think there's millions and millions of phones, and they're all assembled with this super duper precision, and everything is aligned and so forth, it makes you understand that the standards are very high. So not only that, but also, when you look at miniaturization, I was looking recently, not for me, but I was looking at hearing aids, because I guess when you turn over 60, you're in some kind of a database, and people start to sending you stuff. And I received these things, and in my days, I remember when I was a kid, one of my uncle had some kind of a big thing around the ears, and a big thing that was, and now it looked like miniature. It looks like you don't even see the wire, you don't even see the thing that goes in. It was just unbelievable how the alignment and the technology and the precision. And of course, when we're talking about lighting fixtures and manufacturing, we cannot go beside the fact of thermal management. And depending on what kind of legislation or state you are, you have UL, you have DLC, you have Intertech, you have Title 24. All these compliance agency have to be part of this, right? And then we have quality control to finish. So of course you just want to make sure that your fixture has been tested. You're not the tester. And also not only on one fixture, but on random ones. So, if you buy 1,000, they're all behaving the same. Now, when we start thinking about this, one question comes to my mind, and can we really trust wellness lighting? Can it be trust? Like, can we put our faith into that? Well, like I said, our manufacturers have discipline. They have been doing this for a long time, and also what they're doing is they're not just complying to design specification, but they're also complying to biological response. So no longer they're just waiting for or reading a certain performance in a book and saying, this is we have to produce 30 foot per candle on the desk. Yes, that was the old way of thinking. Now we have a bit more data, we have a bit more also input, research, and not only the design, but the manufacturer now has to be aligned, and all of that has to be done at early stage. And if we do that, well, we will achieve what we want with wellness lighting. And wellness lighting is not only defined by the price of the fixtures. And this is something that we have to understand, because sometimes you would think that the best fixtures or the most expensive one, will be the one that will give you everything you need. Well, if the right fixture, if the expensive fixtures are not at the right place, you will encounter some problem, and the efficiency, no matter how good the component and expensive and all of that, they will not produce the expected result because of the way that they're placed. And again, that comes back to the source, right? When I told you about, we have directional and we have general diffuse. So if we take a fixture general diffuse and we need it to be in a directional function, it's not gonna work properly. It's not gonna perform at the optimum, that it can do or it should be. Same thing if I take a directional and I put it in a general diffuse area. I mean, all I'm gonna have is I'm gonna have glare. So it's important, even for manufacturer, to understand these basic concepts. Now, you as a designer that works with manufacturers, you need to educate yourself. You need to understand that your project that is aiming for wellness and consistency are more than important features. It's not just that, oh, it's going to be nice. No, you're going to be delivering something that makes people feel different. You're going to make also the space, use the maximum efficiency of the fixtures that the manufacturer did, so that you have the optimal effect. So wellness performance is revealed by after the installation, and there's no sample box that you can do. Well, I mean, you can mock up the real setup, which I did many times, but it's only to understand how the light function. It's not going to be for you to experiment. And also, it's not something that's going to be you know, thrown at you instantly, because it's not a miracle cure. It's something that is, your body is gonna feel the effect over time, and you're gonna feel less stress, less fatigue, more up energized. You're gonna feel better. You're gonna be more in communication with people. You're gonna look. You're gonna read, or you're gonna study, or you're gonna work in an environment where you have zero attention on the lighting. So again, these results you don't get in sample box, and even if you have the best display, it's never gonna be like you experience it for yourself. And people sometimes they say, well, but Bob, why would I even bother? Why would I bother to do that if I, well, it's the same, it's the same it's the same mentality that why are you splitting your recycling and your garbage? It's a lifestyle. It's something you wanna improve, and you wanna leave the next generation with better than what you came into. So when manufacturers think about wellness lighting, they also have to think about the productivity. What is going to happen in those places, right? And this is tie in also to their production cycle, because like I said, you don't need to produce, and they don't need to produce all their product for wellness. This morning I was again on the phone with another of my friend, and he said, Bob, like uh, and we were talking about PoE lighting, and he said there's a reason why all those big players are not in. Well, of course, one of the main reason is that they have production line. They invest in tooling. They're doing all kinds of lighting fixtures that are working for them, and now they are changing everything is a bit complicated. So they're looking for alternative. They're looking for different ways to do it without changing everything. And that's when, I was telling you about those grid, those wire mesh done with all kinds of systems, Zigbee, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, name it. So it is a movement. It is something that's going to happen. It's going to take time, but at the end of the day, you have to think about your own self, and what does wellness means for you, for your project, and for the people that are in that project. Not only rely on labels or on cut sheets or on uh, public relation. And although it sounds like a very nice marketing term, wellness lighting is also about performance outcome. So if you do something and it doesn't create the effect, or it doesn't respond to it, now what do you do? What are you gonna? How do you measure it? How do you is it reversible? Can you come back to something that is not? So again, it is it is something that needs to be worked out. It's not obvious, and it's not instantaneous. So if wellness lighting can deliver consistently and being experienced consistently, you will have increase in production. If it doesn't happen, then you're gonna have to to find the why, the real why. And maybe it's the product, maybe it's the location, maybe it does follow. That's why it's important to get the data for yourself, because if it's true for you, it is true. And if you go and you document yourself, then you'll know, and you'll make the right decision. Then, of course, you work with your team. and then your team also have to do the research for themselves. Then you bring the players, the manufacturers, the installers, and all of those. So by itself, you know, wellness lighting is nothing. It depends on control. It depends on stable output. It depends on, you know, all the consistency of the rhythm. I mean, one thing is for sure, the truth is that the body biology respond to light. So this is not something that is invented or the flavor of the month or just, you know, something that it's nice to have. It's something that can complement your aging clock, that can complement your health, that can complement a lot of things. So you do need to have make sure that you understand why and what's happening, and also that you're monitoring it. Because if you don't monitoring it, you don't monitor it, nobody will understand. As a manufacturer, it is important that the device that you do have the potential or have the technology inside so that you can monitor that. You can know how long they were on and off. You can read, you know, if anything overheated. You can also check that, you know, it was properly installed in an area where it didn't get abused. And just to give you an example, we live in Florida, and salt destroy everything. I mean, salt is a very, very uh, uh, powerful deterrent for metal. So you can just imagine what it does for solid state. Once it get in and start chewing on circuit boards, I mean, so understanding that and being able to monitor and make sure that you respond to those things, you will definitely have a better um, a better production of and a better efficiency for your fixtures. Sometimes I have to translate in my head because I'm still thinking. So most lighting fixture begin most lighting conversation begin with fixture. We established that, you know, a few episodes ago. So now, as we decided and as we learned that lighting behavior, you know, should be beginning much earlier, now and we have the type of source and we know how to talk about it. So are we using direct light? Are we using general diffuse? And understanding these two behavior explain most of the lighting in any environment. And people are like, wow, I never realized it was that easy. And and it, and also when you go through your manufacturer's product list, it's the same thing, because now you know what you want. You're looking for the fixtures, and if they don't, they do. They don't. Whatever they have, you want to use it. You don't want to use it, then you go to a different manufacturer. So brightness, fixture style, wattage, lumen output, all of this doesn't define anything for you. This is not important. What's important is that you understand that you have these two type of lighting that you need, and this is where we start with. Why? Because that has a direct impact on your behavior and on the lighting behavior of the space. After that, you will go to these little things, right? But not to start. Wow, that was fun. Um, that's about it. So tomorrow we're gonna talk about the design. How would we integrate this into design, and how wellness lighting is also, like I said, could be the leading force of your project, or it could be, working side by side, and you can have a division or an area or a specific zone that is dedicated to that, and from there you can start building on. If you're building a new project, it's always easier to think before than try to move it after. But if you move it after, there's all kinds of products that we can use and technology that we can integrate that gives you that, that similar effect. So thank you.